Good after, good afternoon. We are going to have a work session to receive a presentation from USC-Aiken regarding their plans to expand their softball facility.
Yes, thank you. And I will say it's changed from when we originally had our meeting, and it's kind of more of a high level discussion with the university about their overarching plan. But certainly that's part of it. The university means a lot to us, just as a resource, but and as a partner. And I will say we've got multiple city employees that are graduates of USC-Aiken. I can think of at least 3 of our department heads. I see 2 of them in the room right now, plus our chief. And Lex was just telling me he pays tuition for 3 of his kids to go to USC-Aiken. So anyway, we're glad to have Chancellor Heimerman and some of his senior staff here today. And Chancellor Heimerman's got done a lot of good things, and we're excited to hear what's in store in the future. The university's best days are ahead of it.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Mayor and Council. It's really an honor to be here to present and give you an update about all the great things that's going on at USC-Aiken. And again, we're lucky to live in a place like Aiken. We have a wonderful paper that does dutifully report all the great stuff that's going on in Aiken. So I think some of this you've probably heard before, but I'm here to not just give a brief overview, but also to answer any questions that you have about your 4-year university located here in Aiken. All that we do, and the thing that, of course, USC-Aiken is famous for is producing outstanding graduates. And as Stuart mentioned, we have some in this room, and we have soon to be 3, well, maybe not too soon, as one's just starting anyway. But of course, the measure of our success at USC-Aiken is graduating outstanding employees and citizens. Every year we graduate about 800 students, and this past May we had over 400 bachelor and master's degree students cross the threshold and begin their journey in their career. And many of them, as you're going to see, many of our graduates, in fact most, actually remain here in South Carolina. So we'll talk a bit about that when we look at some of the impact. We continue to develop cutting-edge programs very much aligned with workforce needs in our region. Our deans and our provost work really closely with employers in our region to ensure that we're meeting occupational demands in the CSRA as well as in South Carolina and nationally as well. In fact, just a few of the programs that we've started recently, we have started to offer a bachelor's degree in public health, adding to our nursing health science program. We offer a whole slew of new MBA concentrations as well, Masters of Business Administration concentrations, a number of degrees in cybersecurity, data science, a master's degree in information technology, and a new graduate degree program in educational leadership to train the next generation of principals and superintendents. We also understand that many of our students, many people, cannot spend 4 years to pursue an education maybe at this time in their life. So we've developed some of the state's first certificate programs that can be completed within 1 year in areas such as data science, cybersecurity. Basically, it's 4 classes in which these students will then get a credential, as well as programs in things like Spanish for the healthcare professions. As you know, we have a growing Hispanic population here in our region, and of course, healthcare practitioners and others need to know the language. We offer a new certificate in real estate and other areas as well. So again, understanding that many of our people are working professionals, have families, have other obligations that don't permit them a traditional, or what it was called, at least when I was a student, a traditional sort of 4-year education. Some of these people you'll recognize, well, at least one, probably both. We also are interested in educating the whole student. Financial literacy is something we take seriously. We partnered with, as you see, Eric Jenkins here of SRP, and he's working with us to develop a program to teach all of our students in being financially literate, which is obviously very important for the students and their families' well-being as well. And again, this is a great example of a partnership that USC-Aiken has pursued with important community stakeholders like SRP. Of course, you all know the success of USC-Aiken Equestrian. It's only fitting that USC-Aiken has a really world-class equestrian program, winning the national championship last year, again, defeating teams like the University of Virginia, Texas A&M University. We typically don't compete with those schools in athletics, but as you see, these ladies did a wonderful job. We finished 4th in polo this past year, I think narrowly losing to Virginia this past year. And in fact, later in October, over at David Meunier's polo field, we will put on an exhibition with our polo team as well as professionals over at the Bourgogne Polo Complex. So more information about that will be forthcoming. In fact, I saw David at the post office this past Friday. One of the things, as Stuart mentioned, we are building a new softball facility as well as a soccer field. You'll see a picture of that in a minute. Over across the highway next to the Convocation Center, really next to the baseball stadium, the Hernandez Baseball Stadium. Of course, these projects were necessitated by the fact of the AMC and soon to be begun, the South Carolina National Guard Cyber Integration Center, which I'll talk a bit about. So these fields have to be moved across the highway. It's also appropriate, our women's softball field and soccer field really weren't up to par compared to, say, the men's baseball field. So it is very appropriate that we do these things. Both of them will be artificial turf, so much easier to maintain. And by the fall, the softball facility should be completed. Likewise, the soccer facility as well will be artificial turf, again, across the highway over there. So we're focusing, as per our facilities master plan, our athletic fields across the highway proximate to the Convocation Center. So these will provide, of course, our athletic programs, but perhaps community with opportunities to use these fields when, for example, inclement weather does not permit play on, say, a grass field as well. We work really closely with Forrest Mahan and Aiken Tech. We're not real competitors with Aiken Tech. They have a noble mission, as do we. But we want to make sure that when a student transfers from Aiken Tech or another two-year college, that they are able to seamlessly transfer to USC-Aiken and get credit for the work they've done, so that they're not going back and finding themselves having to actually go 3.5 years, even though they've already put in 2 years. So we've worked on a number of reverse transfer agreements. In fact, what this reverse transfer agreement means is if somebody goes to Aiken Tech and they begin a 2-year program, and then before finishing at Aiken Tech, they come to USC-Aiken, and they take the courses while at USC-Aiken, and they get that 2-year Aiken Tech credential, we will transfer those credits back to Aiken Tech, and Aiken Tech will then reward them with that 2-year credential. So they'll get that credential, and then hopefully when they finish the 4-year degree, they will get the USC-Aiken. So, getting these credentials really put prospective employees at an advantage, and that's what we're all about in partnership with Forrest and his folks at Aiken Tech. We continue to develop our engineering programs. We developed a few years ago mechanical engineering, and part of that is making sure that we have the facilities. We recently broke ground. In fact, we completed our machine shop and makerspace, which are required for mechanical engineering. And as soon as we graduate our first graduate, we will be accredited by ABET, which accredits all engineering programs, the ones at Clemson, Carolina, Georgia Tech. So our accreditation in engineering will be that of the best schools in the country. We're also looking to create a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. So we're going to continue to develop our engineering program in concert with the site and local industries who tell us, hey, we in the CSRA, we need locally trained engineers, people who will stay in the CSRA, make their homes there as well. So having these local programs that support what I know you know are tremendous anticipated workforce needs in our area is what we are all about. We get great support from our delegation. You know, Tom and Bill and others, of course, give us great support in Columbia. We'll talk a bit about that here in a minute. This is Carolina Day when the system, Columbia, Upstate, Beaufort, us, and the two-year USC system schools really thank our legislators during a day in Columbia. These are some of our Chancellor Ambassadors, which I know Lex is familiar with as well, who are great students. They really are, and I'm not just saying that, Lex, because you're here, but these Chancellor Ambassadors who work closely with my office are the exemplars of the university. These are the people that we hold up high and we make visible because they're great examples for their peer. And here they are, you know, there with the two Bills and of course Tom and again just really do a great job representing the best of USC-Aiken. Of course, many of you know the Center for Lifelong Learning. We support our community that want to engage in continuing education, learning about topics such as history. In fact, this fall I'll be teaching a course in early modern European history. But we offer, this is wildly successful, and we re-signed our partnership with our folks at the Center for Lifelong Learning. And again, I don't think I need to say any more how valuable it is to our community here in Aiken. You know, one of the most important things that I've done, and I've said this elsewhere in 3 years and starting my 4th year here, which is very difficult to believe, is hiring great people. There's no substitute for surrounding yourself with highly qualified people. And of course, we hit a home run with our new provost. As you know, Darren Timmons took a job with the lab. We miss Darren quite a lot, but we're also happy for him as well. But we were able to hire Phil Bridgman, who served as provost at the University of Central Missouri, which is, by the way, a university 4 times the size of USC-Aiken. So in some ways, it was a lateral move for him, going from a school of 12,000 to a school of nearly 4,000. But Phil brings tremendous experience, in particular in the area of enrollment management. As we'll talk about, one of our goals is not just ensuring that all the students we accept cross the finish line and graduate and go on to rewarding careers, but it is important, given how our budget works in our state, at our university, to continue to grow the university. The major source of our revenue, our operating revenue, comes from tuition revenue. And Phil has tremendous experience in both recruiting students and also retaining students as well. Retaining students is a challenge for universities all over. We're no exception. Students start, many of them don't finish. And lots of reasons for it, many of which we have no control over, frankly, but there are some things we can do a little bit better, we believe, and Phil is going to lead us there. We also made a new appointment in nursing. As you know, Thayer McGahee retired, and we didn't have to look too far to find Katie Chargoloff, who was a nursing faculty member. We undertook a national search, as we did for the provost position, and we hired Katie, and she is really taking the reins of the School of Nursing. And I think in the future, what you will see is continuing development of our health science programs. As you will see also, one of our requests for the legislature will be to expand our nursing building into a health science building. I mentioned we offer nursing, but we also offer now public health, which obviously The pandemic taught us the importance of that, and even though we don't want to think about that anymore, but we must and remain vigilant. And you will see other kinds of health science programs working very closely, again, with Matt at the hospital and other health care professionals. What does this area need? What kind of health practitioners are needed in the CSRA? Because again, students who come to USC-Aiken, most of them, when they graduate, they stay. They stay in South Carolina. So we're able to grow our own in these vital areas. Some of the, I think, pretty well-known, numbers, points. Most of our students are from South Carolina, which is sort of unique in a way, given how close we are to Georgia. But 86% of our students, though we do get some great students from Georgia, but most of our students are South Carolinians. A fifth of them are first-generation students. 9% of our students are veterans. And as you know, we have a celebrated veterans program ranked in the top 10, not top 10%, but top 10 in the country for our service of veterans who, as you see, make up 9% of our population. Many of our students graduate without debt. I'll talk a bit about tuition in a minute, but USC-Aiken is very affordable, as far as affordable can be in the age we live in today. And of course, our university really mirrors the ethnic composition of South Carolina. 36% of our students are people of color. So again, like a state university should, it mirrors our population. As I mentioned, nearly 3/4 of our students stay in South Carolina, which again is maybe surprising and impressive given the fact that how close we are to places like Augusta. Even Atlanta is only 2 hours away. Charlotte, as you know, young people some of them are drawn to opportunities and lifestyle in bigger cities, yet we are able to keep most of our graduates in our state and in our region as well. USC-Aiken's affordable. In fact, in 7 years, we've not raised tuition. And put another way, we've reduced tuition by 25% if you take into account inflation. That's good, and I brag about it all the time. They love to hear it at Rotary and in other places. It does have challenges because we all know inflation, especially you all in your capacity on the city council. Inflation is a real thing that leads to problems and kinds of pressures, but we are a great value. In fact, half of our students pay nothing out of pocket in tuition and fees. And nearly 3/4, about 72% pay less than half in tuition and fees. So we are quite a bargain. Again, going back to engineering, if you figure that a student who graduates from USC-Aiken's mechanical engineering program get the same credential, again, ABET accredited degree, as they do at MIT, Georgia Tech, Carolina, Clemson, and others. So, but I dare say not at that price. So we're a great value. And we'll talk a bit more about affordability as well. As you can imagine, we're proud that our students graduate and get rewarding jobs, including in areas like mine, the liberal arts. I'm a historian by training, but as you will see, especially on our new webpage that we launched in the past few months, we highlight our alumni. What are they doing now with their degrees? And you'll notice that USC-Aiken graduates are highly sought after and employable in no matter what degree they attain. One of the things people don't think about when they think of an institution of higher education, that the economic impact that they have. You may know that recently we conducted a study of USC-Aiken's economic impact. Every year, USC-Aiken generates $350 million into our economy. 1,500 jobs, $22 million in taxes. So a university is really an economic dynamo for any community. So beyond the cultural access a university provides, the educational opportunities, the workforce development, and we unashamedly say that USC-Aiken, we prepare workforce. You often don't hear four-year universities talk about that, but we take it seriously because we want people who are employable. One of the things that is so great, and we understand that the new student today, very different than me. I'll just use myself as an example, who back in Wisconsin lived in the dorms for 3 years, did not have a job except in the summer. My dad told me, hey, Dan, you focus on studying. He probably knew better that I was going to focus on some other things too, which I did. But nonetheless, that's unusual. Many of our students work. One of the things that we discovered, we always are looking into, why do some students not graduate? The answer is pretty elusive because when they drop out, they don't leave us a nice letter sometimes, but we do dig. And for USC-Aiken, it's true, some may not be prepared academically, though we have everything on campus to help them with that. But usually it's issues related to family obligations. Many of our students are caregivers to a family member, whether it's a parent, children, some other person, and many of our students work, and a lot too. So they fit in college when they can, which is why most of our students do not, indeed cannot, graduate in 4 years, like I did. They have other responsibilities that are as equal or of greater importance at this time as well. So again, preparing a workforce is primary for us. One of the great things we do is not just teach students, but we provide applied research. One of the goals of our university is to solve our region's most pressing challenges. One of them is to make sure we provide teachers. Is it a good example? Educate more teachers. I'll talk a bit more about that. A more educated workforce, we do that. But we also want to solve our region's most pressing technological problems as well. I know if you've talked with Jim Tunnison lately, he's very interested in us taking a look at what's going on over by USC-Aiken, not just because of USC-Aiken. Obviously, the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative, the South Carolina National Guard, may provide a venue for an innovation corridor that could attract businesses and industries that are allied to that part of Aiken. And of course, bringing with them employees and of course, expertise as well. One of the things that obviously we're into a lot, and I think I gave you a brochure hot off the press. I think I emailed it to you all, and I didn't know you were getting that email. I thought I was just sending it to the Aiken Corp, but which is great, by the way. But now you have a hard copy, kind of summarizing, all the assets that Aiken has. Which are considerable. If you add up the Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative, the South Carolina National Guard Cyber Integration Center, which they believe will break ground in 25, and the downtown building, there is $120 million of investment going on in Aiken, dedicated to science, technology, engineering, but much of it toward cyber. Aiken, the CSRI, really has an opportunity, I believe, to be a leader in South Carolina. And we work very closely with other communities as well, including the Georgia Cyber Center. Because the thing about cybersecurity is it's not about bricks and mortar. Cyber bad guys and girls, they don't stop because we're going into North Augusta and say, whoa, we're not going there, or to Georgia. It is something that is universal. It's certainly national. And we have in our area, and again, forget about USC-Aiken and all the things we offer, but those are assets that federal, state assets right here in Aiken that most communities do not have. And we need to make sure, and this is what I've been talking with Jim about and with Will Williams, how can we leverage these things to support our community, and of course to protect our cyber assets. In fact, as you see, our university is an NSA Center for Academic Excellence as well. So again, another testament to the kind of academic quality that USC-Aiken has. So I mentioned the Advanced Manufacturing Club. It looks a lot different than this. If you've driven by USC-Aiken, it looks pretty close to being done, at least from the outside. They estimate, and there's Vahid and Sharon, that maybe as early as March, they'll start moving things into the AMC there. Again, a $60 million investment that the DOE has made here in Aiken. And of course, USC-Aiken, our job is to host. We're the host, though we will have about 2,300 square feet in which our engineering program will be located over there. So our students, our faculty, some of our staff will work closely with these world-class scientists from the DOE and from the lab. So it's a tremendous opportunity and advantage to continue to attract great students, faculty, and others to Aiken, and of course to USC-Aiken as well. The South Carolina National Guard investment, again, $42 million investment. They estimate that there's really a couple buildings involved here. One is the Cyber Integration Center. That'll be plunked right where the current softball field is right now, right next to the AMC. Again, probably won't be done till about 2027 or so. So that will be where our cyber warriors will train and monitor all the bad actors who try to intrude in our cyberspace. There also will be across the highway in the woods a motor pool. That's where they will keep some of their vehicles when the National Guard does their thing every month. There's also going to be a readiness center as well, a readiness center where they will meet and train soldiers, but also where USC-Aiken will be able to use that readiness center for space when the Guard is not there as well. In fact, the Guard helped us with those softball fields as well. They did the dirt work, $1 million worth of dirt work, where you see those new fields as practice. So that was nice of them too. The National Guardsmen, graded it for us in preparation for the buildings that are going to go, or the fields that are going to go there. One of the things that I mentioned, and it's great that we haven't raised tuition at USC-Aiken, but we have challenges, as you can imagine. We all do. You run any kind of organization. We only get about less than 17% of our budget from the state. In other words, much of our operating budget is from that red tuition. And like the cities, I'm sure, Stuart, your expenses have gone up, and you've had to deal with those. And you can see, our expenses, in particular in terms of salary, and I know you understand the costs for health care that we cover when the state raises the premiums for our employees. We cover it, so we don't pass it on to our employees. But you can see, it's difficult to always make ends meet. But USC-Aiken, I'll say this, the reason why we're able to provide such a great value is because, frankly, we're frugal as an organization. We're not bloated really in any area. And we have very hardworking people, many of them behind me as well, and make sure that we do with what we have and in pursuit of our mission. Just to give you an idea, I mentioned the state appropriation. So we get from the state 16.7% roughly, but compared to Georgia gives its universities 40% of its budget. And North Carolina, which if you do any Googling at universities in North Carolina, they're experiencing major problems at some of their universities. If you look at UNC Asheville, UNC Greensboro, they're facing some serious cuts, yet look what their state gives those institutions there. So we're at somewhat of a competitive disadvantage. In fact, I mentioned we haven't raised just tuition for 7 years, but our tuition rate is about the same as, say, Georgia Southern. They've raised their tuition, but can you imagine what our tuition looked like 7 years ago? Again, So, and it's because, you know, we do what we can with the state money, but we ultimately have to have the tuition. It's got to come from somewhere. So that is a challenge that, you know, of course, the delegation, you know, they know, so there's nothing new here, and they're working on it. But again, it is a challenge that we have. And that's why, as I mentioned, growth is so important for us. You know, nothing crazy growth, not growing 10% a year because we could not accommodate that, but a few percentage points a year. We think this fall is going to be a great one. And by the way, if you ever read about, and I think you will, about USC-Aiken's enrollment going up, that's really something, because the number of 18-year-olds is not going up nationally. There are a few states. The one I came from, Texas, is one of them. I think California, not even Florida anymore. So the demographic cliff for 18-year-olds is really going to further challenge universities. The competition for those 18-year-olds is real intense. And in fact, South Carolina, we're actually not as bad. In other words, our number of 18-year-olds is kind of steady. But that's why you'll notice universities from other states come into our area and try to poach, you know, our students. It's like when I was in Texas, we'd get all these SEC schools, of course now they're all in the SEC, come into Texas to try to poach some of our younger population that existed in Texas. So we do, like everyone, no surprise, face financial challenges. But again, we had actually a pretty good year, thanks again to the hard work of people and thanks to the fact that our enrollment has actually finally recovered from COVID and is on the rise. And I really believe that with the strategic plan, I think you all have a copy, that strategic plan, we're really about to really shoot off. And now that the team is in place that I've assembled in 3 years, you're going to really hear even more great things about USC-Aiken. Maybe more information than you want to know, but just in full disclosure, this is what we're going to ask of the legislature this year. You know, tuition mitigation is kind of a funny thing. You know, I mentioned we haven't raised tuition. How can we do that? Well, it's kind of a deal we make with our politician friends and the governor. They say, hey, we'll give you tuition mitigation. How about not raising tuition? And so it is basically to cover the expenses, the increases that everyone faces, so that we take it easy on the student and their families. So we're asking for about $3.5 million of tuition mitigation to do that. Some of the capital requests, these are ambitious. You know, we'll never get all this money in 1 year, not even on one of these. Well, maybe we could maybe get something. But we are looking, as I mentioned, to expand our engineering building and our engineering programs. Again, electrical, you're going to see that coming down the pike here at USC-Aiken. And $50 million for an engineering building, and a research center attached to the science building. It's sort of an addition to the current science building to promote collaborative research between our faculty, DOE faculty here on our campus. I mentioned the health science building expansion, so expanding the current nursing building, which again is really at capacity just with nursing as it is. And perhaps renovating Penland. As you know, my office used to be in the Penland building. It's now the second floor of the B&E building. So we're thinking of renovating Penland to make it a really welcoming space for prospective students. You know, as they say, you never get a second chance at a first impression. You're also going to notice, we believe in the next 5 years, some other kind of improvements to the landscaping of USC-Aiken to, for lack of better words, make it look even more beautiful, you know, even more welcoming. We commissioned a 5-year facilities master plan. One of the things you will notice in the course of the 5 years, we're going to seek to make USC-Aiken look more like a residential campus. And what that means is, you notice when you drive past USC-Aiken, what do you see? You see a lot of parking lots, like Walmart. That's not what we want. We know why they did it. When USC-Aiken was largely a commuter campus, people wanted to park out there and then go in. But now more sophisticated planning calls for sort of more creatively integrating parking spots, hidden, shade, maybe shielded with green space, but creating a more thoughtful pedestrian ways that promote really on-campus meetings of students and so forth. So you'll notice that signage as well will be improved on campus as well. Really creating, and I've joked with Brian, our facilities person, a more manicured look. Again, many students, and I'm going to speak for one I know pretty well, my daughter. She likes the college at Charleston, and that's where she's going in a week because she likes what it looks like. She can't give me another reason. Well, she can. I think it was King Street. But and I don't want to know that one, by the way, too, because she just got a credit card as well. Unfortunately, it goes to my address, which is probably positive. But so at least know I can cut it off. But it is important, I think. Plus, frankly, with these new modern buildings that are coming up, the AMC and the South Carolina National Guard, we do need to sort of keep up with that. And also within 5 years, realistically, probably none of these big projects are going to happen in that time frame. We're not going to get the money probably within 5 years, and even if we would luck out and get $20 million, they wouldn't be completed within 5 years. So this is a very tactical 5-year plan, and I think actually we're presenting, you all will have opportunity to take a look at that plan as well, because we are sharing these ideas and we want input from the community as well. Again, lots of great things going on at USC-Aiken, and at this time, again, thank you for your kind attention. Be happy to answer any questions you have about the university.
But one question, Gary and I used to work with Aiken County, or Aiken High Booster
Commissioner of
Club.
Higher Education.
Aiken High Booster Club back in the day when our kids were in high school. And one question we always ask is, will USC-Aiken ever build a football field? Now, we know you don't have a football team, but it was going to be something, at least that's what our vision was, something that could be used by the entire community when we have different tournaments and so forth, and generate some revenue. So,
Cam, are you still in the room? Anyway, no. Full disclosure.
As Mary.
Football is by far my favorite sport. So, and back in Texas, we started football. But where else do you start football? This was in the last 10 years. In Texas. But this is the deal, and I would argue this is probably some oil person gave us $14 million. So we can solve anything with enough money, pretty much. But no, I do like the idea. And in fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Gail, because one of the things that we want to do more of is we want the community on our campus more. I mentioned the softball field. Of course, the Convocation Center as well was built with some of the county support. There used to have a circus in there apparently at one time, and apparently they couldn't get the elephant in. That's what I heard happen. But I think all kinds of opportunities like that. Again, it's kind of like redoing the tennis courts, which Don Moody sent me my first text of congratulations. After it was announced I was back in Texas, got this job, was bring back tennis. And I swear that was from Don. But and I've heard from him since, by the way. But of course, our tennis courts are in real rough shape. But they are on, by the way. That's a good example. They are on the master plan. We're just going to have to figure out how to pay for it. Obviously, the mission of the university first, we've got to take care of the academic enterprise first. Got to take care of our folks who serve that, our faculty and our staff. But we're always ears to do more collaborative work with people. In fact, I joke, and I'm gonna, we talk about track and field. Of course, we don't have track on our campus, though something could eventually be built around that soccer field you saw. I like track and field because it's a high participation sport. It would be a great way to recruit students to Aiken. But if we ever add sports, they'll have to make economic sense for the university, even though I like it. But no, we can. I'd be interested in hearing that story about the football field. But yeah, that'd be good. Probably couldn't compete against the Gamecocks on like back in Texas. Back in Texas, we had to make sure we didn't compete with UT Austin or Texas Tech even because we were close to Lubbock there. So we would schedule and it was Division II as well. We would schedule our games when they were away or something else like that. But it is great, and of course athletics, and Todd is here. It's such an edifying thing for the student, of course for the student athlete, but also for the community as well. Again, our goal, and know that my door is always open for your ideas of how can we at USC-Aiken, what can we do to better integrate ourselves, with the community and get more people to campus. And we do get, quite a few people. Again, the lifelong learning. I mean, that does a great job. But I think there are some other things that we can do. So, but thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have several questions.
Oh,
Dr.
sure.
Heimerman, apologies, my sincere apologies, and to council as well for being late for this meeting, but I got an unexpected conference call that I wasn't expecting, so that's why I'm tardy here. These questions may have already been addressed in your presentation. As I look at your budget and what you're receiving in grants, I just wondered how many grants individuals you had working, given the amount of money that's out there and pursuing those.
Well, the good news is not as many as we're going to have soon because,
Okay.
In truth, we haven't focused that much on federal grants, but now we've got tremendous opportunities. Number one, you saw me with a shovel there. One of our deans, Scott McKay, who I actually stole from the Texas University I came from, he is now, in addition to the Dean of Science and Engineering, but we created a new position, and that is Assistant Vice Chancellor for Research. So he has established really an office to go after those grants.
Good.
We have indications of success. Senator Graham last year was able to get us $830,000. We also made a request for over $2 million that has made it through the process so far for the nursing building. We're also in good shape, it seems, to get an NIH grant. So again, during the past 3 years, we've assembled a team that is now looking more at grants, and again, hiring people, and also our affiliation with the lab. We worked with Sean Alford. He's been very helpful in helping us so we've got all of these federal agencies, and what has been lacking, frankly, is our organization to basically handle grants, because
Right.
when you get federal grants, they've got to be handled correctly.
That's correct.
And so Columbia at this time helps us. Of course, they take a bigger cut than I'd like, but that's, they know that already. But again, there are tremendous opportunities,
Right.
especially in the STEM areas and the cyber areas that we have developing. But again, keep in mind that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were pretty much a liberal arts university. We didn't have STEM. We didn't have engineering. I think we had process engineering. And in all fairness, again, I know this because I'm a historian, there's not grant money for French history. And if it is, you're happy if you get $5,000. That's a big deal from the NEH, not the millions that health science gets or engineering or STEM. We're now into that area. In fact, 40% of our students who start at USC-Aiken major in science, technology, engineering, or math. And that's probably going to go up.
I would expect so. And you've made tremendous strides. We've seen it. It's very visible under your leadership and your team's leadership as well, and I want to commend you for that. You mentioned the demographics of your campus, and that will probably grow as well, I predict, given some things that I heard this past weekend, a weekend before last, about some of the interests of folks attending USC-Aiken. But having said that, I wondered how many foreign students you had on campus and whether that's recruiting tool as well.
Yeah, we have probably less than 100.
Okay.
And many of them are athletes. We have a cohort of Indian students. In fact, I went to India a year and a half ago. And again, Phil, the new provost, has tremendous experience with international. I think we have opportunity to increase our international. Now, again, we want to be careful. We're not going to accept more than we can care for.
Right.
Because, you know, they just don't dump them off and say, hey, welcome to Aiken. We know you're from India. But I think there are, because of the programs we developed, again, a master's degree in computer information system, these are the kind of degrees, MBA, that international students are interested in, business and so forth. But we haven't been as deliberate as we could be to recruit them. So again, I think there's opportunity. There's really opportunity at USC-Aiken to grow in all directions. There's not one silver bullet to get a whole bunch of 18-year-olds. There are transfers from Aiken Tech. There are international students. There are retired people who want to perhaps come and get a certificate program as well. In addition to other online education, that still is important for working people because they can fit that in their schedule, and we do have a pretty robust curriculum programs in online as well.
Thank you
My
for
pleasure.
responding to those questions. And thank you and the staff as well.
Sir.
Tell your daughter to stay away from the Citadel boys.
I see them roaming around there.
If she needs to know why, tell her to call my wife Stephanie, who was also a College of Charleston graduate.
Will Williams told me something about that when I had lunch with him.
She could not. I don't know why, but she couldn't stay away from me when I was.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because speaking of demographics, the one thing I noticed at College of Charleston, it's like 75%, I think, of the students are female. I think so. I guess I don't blame them.
And I didn't know that before I went to the Citadel. Had I known that, I would not have gone to the Citadel. I would have gone to the College of Charleston.
Somehow it probably worked out for you.
All the truth coming out. Dr. Heimerman, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say, my brother graduated from USC-Aiken 30 years ago, and what a good education it was. And he went on to get further degrees, and I'm so glad to hear you adding all these degrees and courses. But the one thing that has impressed me more than anything, and you mentioned it, was being in the top 10 for veterans. Not in the top 10%, in the top 10 across the nation. And if there's ever a demographic that we want to see pushed forward and able to get their education, is our people that served us in the military. So it makes me so proud that you've been able to accomplish that. And I tell everyone.
I agree. Well, we're in a fortunate position. One, we have Robert Murphy, who I
Yes.
think you know, who does a great job with our veterans, and Tristan Stone as well. Obviously, South Carolina, the governor, very supportive of veterans. So it's really a state and community thing. And, we love veterans, one, because for the reasons you mentioned, we owe it. We owe them a great education and a great experience. Of course, veterans, I'll say this will sound, I'm thinking of my daughter, are older, typically, know what they want to do, they graduate, and also they're funded as well, which makes it easier on them, their families, and certainly makes it a lot easier on CAM here because we're going to get the tuition from them. But yeah, we expect to continue those elevated rankings in service to our veterans.
It's a real feather in your hat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, I really appreciate your time. I know you're all busy, and I really appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do to serve you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or my team. So please come to campus. I'll see you on campus at an event. Of course, the Etheridge Center, the cultural series is starting pretty soon, and soon the athletic events. But again, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you all for being here for the work session. If there are no other items, we will now go into executive session. Read this. Read that. The Aiken City Council will go into executive session pursuant to Section 30-4-70, parenthesis A, parenthesis 1 of the South Carolina Code for the discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, or promotion of a person regulated by City Council. Specifically, City Council will go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the annual performance review and other related issues of the city manager. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Councilwoman Diggs moved,
And I'll second, Madam
and
Mayor.
Councilwoman Broll seconded. All in favor? Motion passed. We will now move into executive session.